The wedding hall was filled with soft music and quiet laughter. Crystal lights hung from the ceiling, shining down on tables covered in white cloth and golden plates. Everything looked perfect, like something from a magazine. The guests were dressed in expensive suits and elegant gowns, speaking in low voices and holding glasses of sparkling drinks. It was the kind of place where everyone looked confident, rich, and sure of their place in the world. Near the entrance, a young woman stood still, holding the strap of her worn handbag tightly. Her name was Lena. She looked around the hall slowly, as if she were afraid that one wrong step might draw too much attention. Her dress was clean but simple, nothing like the designer outfits around her. Her shoes were old, but polished carefully, as she had tried her best to look presentable for this moment. No one noticed her at first. People were too busy admiring the decorations or greeting old friends. Lena took a deep breath and stepped forward. Every step felt heavy. She had not planned to come early, but her hands had started shaking outside. She knew she would not be able to wait any longer. She did not come for food or curiosity. She came because she felt she had no other choice. Across the room, the groom stood near the stage, smiling as guests congratulated him. He looked happy on the surface, but his smile was tight, like someone forcing himself to appear calm. When Lena saw him, her chest tightened. For a moment, she almost turned back. This was not the life she belonged to. She knew that. But what she carried inside her heart was heavier than her fear. She moved closer, staying near the edge of the crowd. Some guests glanced at her briefly, then looked away. A few whispered quietly, judging her clothes, her posture, the way she didn't seem to fit in. Lena felt those looks, but she kept her head down. When the groom finally noticed her, his smile faded. His eyes widened slightly, and his body stiffened. He excused himself from the guests and walked toward her. "What are you doing here?" he asked in a low voice, trying to keep calm. "I need to talk to you," Lena replied softly. "It's important." "This is not the time," he said, looking around nervously. "You shouldn't be here." "I know," she said. "I wouldn't come if it wasn't serious." Their quiet conversation did not go unnoticed. From across the room, the bride watched them. Her name was Vera. She was stunning in her white dress, her hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. This day was supposed to be about her. Every detail had been planned for months, and now a stranger was standing close to her future husband, whispering to him like she belonged there. Vera's smile faded as jealousy and anger grew inside her. She watched Lena's plain clothes, her nervous hands, her bowed head. In Vera's eyes, this woman did not belong in her world. One of Vera's friends leaned closer. "Do you know her?" she whispered. Vera shook her head. "No, but I will." She lifted her dress slightly and walked toward them, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. Conversations nearby slowly quieted as people noticed her expression. "What is going on here?" Vera asked loudly, her voice cutting through the soft music. The groom tried to speak. "It's nothing." "Just someone I..." Before he could finish, Vera turned her sharp gaze toward Lena. "Who are you?" she demanded. "And why are you bothering my husband on our wedding day?" Lena swallowed. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I just need a few minutes to explain." "Explain what?" Vera laughed coldly. "That you picked the wrong place to beg?" Some guests chuckled quietly. Others watched with interest, sensing drama. "I'm not begging," Lena said, her voice shaking slightly. "I just need him to hear me." Vera stepped closer, her face inches from Lena's. "You think you can just walk into my wedding looking like this and pull him aside?" "I didn't mean any disrespect," Lena replied. "Please." The groom reached out. "Vera, let's talk somewhere private." But Vera pulled her arm away. Her eyes burned with humiliation and pride. To her, this moment felt like an attack on her dignity. Security staff at the entrance began watching closely, ready to step in if needed. Lena felt her throat tighten. She knew this was going badly. She had practiced her words 100 times, but now nothing came out right. "I'll leave," Lena said quietly. "Just let me say one thing before I go." Vera crossed her arms. "Say it. Let everyone hear." Lena hesitated. She looked at the groom, her eyes full of fear and urgency. "You're making a mistake," she said softly. That was enough. Gasps spread through the crowd. Vera's face changed instantly. Her patience snapped. "How dare you?" she shouted. "Get out of here." Lena flinched at the sound of her voice. She opened her mouth to speak again, but no one listened. The room felt like it was closing in on her. At that moment, an older man sitting near the front quietly stood up. He had been watching everything in silence. His suit was simple but expensive, and his posture carried authority without effort. Few people noticed him stand. But those who did grew quiet. His eyes were not on the bride or the groom. They were on Lena. He looked at her face closely, as if trying to recognize something he had not seen in years. His hand trembled slightly as he tightened his grip on his cane. Lena felt tears rise in her eyes, but she forced them back. She had not come to cry. She had come to speak the truth, even if it hurt. "I'm leaving," she repeated. Her voice barely audible, she turned toward the exit, her shoulders shaking. Conversation slowly resumed, but something in the air felt wrong. The joy had faded. The laughter sounded forced. As Lena reached the door, the older man took a step forward, his heart pounding. Memories rushed through his mind, memories he had tried to bury long ago. The bride's anger still filled the room, but she did not notice him yet. Lena stepped outside into the cool air, unaware that her presence had already changed everything, and inside the hall, the man who controlled billion-dollar companies realized that the girl who had just been humiliated might be the one person he had been searching for his entire life. The night air outside was cool, and Lena felt it brush against her face like a small relief from the tension inside. She walked quickly, her worn shoes clicking softly on the pavement. Her heart was still racing. Even though she had left the wedding hall, the shouts, the judgmental stares, and the cold laughter of the guests replayed in her mind over and over. Every step she took felt heavier than the last, as if the ground wanted to remind her that she didn't belong in a world like that. She reached a quiet corner, a small garden outside the venue where lights hung softly from the trees. She leaned against a railing, trying to catch her breath. Her hands were trembling, and a knot of panic had settled in her stomach. She had known this wouldn't be easy. She had known that confronting him in front of all those people could backfire, but she had not expected her courage to feel so fragile. "I shouldn't have come," she whispered to herself. Her voice was almost lost among the soft rustle of leaves. Why did I think this would be different? She had rehearsed what she would say, how she would explain the truth, how she would convince him to listen. Yet, standing there now, she realized words were weak against the power of pride and anger. Pride, like his, could turn anyone's voice into silence, even a voice carrying truth. Suddenly, she heard footsteps. They were deliberate, slow, and heavy. She looked up, expecting perhaps a security guard or one of the staff asking her to leave. Instead, it was him, the groom. His expression was unreadable, half worry, half frustration, and a flicker of something else that Lena couldn't quite identify. "You shouldn't be out here," he said quietly, but there was no anger in his voice now. "Only concern." "I can't go back in there," Lena replied, keeping her voice steady. "Not yet." She glanced toward the hall, where laughter and music still echoed faintly. "I couldn't let you make a mistake without knowing the truth." He frowned, taking a step closer. "You could have sent a message or asked for a private meeting. You didn't have to cause a scene." Lena looked at him, her eyes wide. "I didn't want to risk anyone misunderstanding. I wanted to make sure you heard me clearly." She paused, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Please, you have to trust me." He studied her for a long moment, as if trying to see through her words to the heart behind them. For a brief second, Lena thought he might walk away, but he didn't. Instead, he sighed, rubbing the back of his neck, and sat down on a nearby bench. "All right," he said softly. "Talk. Tell me what I need to know." Relief washed over her like warm water. She sat down across from him, feeling the tension in her shoulders ease just slightly. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "It's complicated," she began, "but it's important. I didn't come here to ruin anything. I came because you need to know the truth before it's too late." He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. I don't understand. What truth? Lena's eyes filled with quiet determination. The woman you're about to marry. She's not who you think she is. There are things she's hiding, things that could change everything about your life. He blinked. What are you talking about? She hesitated. The words were hard to say. She had rehearsed them hundreds of times, but now, looking at him, she realized they could shatter the life he thought he knew. She's dangerous in ways that are not obvious. She smiles in public, she plans every detail, but behind that smile, she manipulates. She's not honest with you. Stared at her, disbelief and irritation crossing his face. And you think I should just believe a stranger? I'm not a stranger, Lena said, her voice firmer now. I care about what happens to you. I know it might not seem like it, but I came here because I couldn't stay silent. I couldn't watch you make a choice that could ruin your life. He ran a hand over his face, exhaling slowly. And what exactly do you want me to do? Call off the wedding. You have no idea how complicated that is. I know it's complicated, she said softly. But sometimes knowing the truth is more important than anything else. Don't let appearances fool you. Don't let pride make you blind. For a moment, silence fell between them. The soft hum of the party inside drifted through the trees, faint but constant. Lena could feel her heart pounding in her chest. She wanted him to listen. She needed him to understand. Finally, he leaned back, shaking his head. You have no idea what you're stepping into. You don't know her. You don't know how she plays the world. I know enough, Lena said quietly. Enough to warn you. He looked at her for what felt like an eternity. Then he sighed again, more deeply this time, as if the weight of the night had finally pressed down on him. I don't know why I'm listening to you. I don't even know who you really are. Her heart skipped a beat. She had feared this moment, the moment when she had to reveal herself, and yet, somehow, it had arrived. She knew she couldn't hold it back any longer. My name is Lena, she said softly, and I'm connected to you in ways you wouldn't imagine. More than anyone knows. More than she knows. I'm not here to ruin your happiness. I'm here to save it. He stared at her, confused and slightly wary. Save it? From what? She hesitated. The next words were hard, but she needed him to understand. From a life built on lies? From someone who doesn't have your best interests at heart? I wish I could explain everything right now, but the truth. The truth is bigger than this room, bigger than tonight, and you need to hear it before it's too late. His expression softened slightly, the tension easing from his shoulders just a little. And what if you're wrong? He asked, his voice low. What if you're imagining this? I'm not wrong, Lena replied. I wouldn't come here if I wasn't certain. I wouldn't risk everything to be here tonight if I wasn't sure. He looked at her, studying her face. For the first time, he noticed the exhaustion in her eyes, the worry lines that spoke of nights spent thinking and planning. He saw the small tremble in her hands, the quiet courage in her stance. She wasn't lying. She couldn't be. Okay, he said finally, sitting back with a heavy sigh. I don't know what this means yet. I don't know if I can trust you fully. But I will listen. You have my attention, for now. Relief flooded through her. She had expected resistance, but she hadn't expected him to allow her this chance. Thank you, she whispered. They sat together in silence for a moment. The hum of the party inside mixing with the soft sounds of the garden. The night felt calmer than it had moments ago, but Lena knew the hardest part was still ahead. She had started to speak, to reveal the truth. But the next steps would change everything. Inside the hall, the atmosphere had shifted as well. Guests began whispering about the confrontation, wondering who Lena was, why she had dared approach the groom, and why the bride had reacted so violently. Vera, the bride, was pacing back and forth near the entrance, fuming. She could not understand how a simple stranger could cause such disruption. Her carefully planned day had been invaded, and she hated that she had lost control. Even for a moment, I don't understand who she is, Vera whispered to one of her friends. How could she get to him like that? Her friend shrugged. I don't know. But she's clearly someone who matters to him. Look at his face. He's listening to her. Vera's anger grew. Pride and humiliation mixed together, and for the first time, she felt the cold taste of fear. If this woman had such influence over the groom, then perhaps she could ruin everything Vera had built. Every plan, every careful step, every detail of her perfect wedding suddenly felt fragile. Outside, Lena and the groom remained in the garden, two figures bathed in the soft glow of string lights. Lena knew the conversation ahead would not be easy. She would have to reveal secrets that could shock, hurt, and possibly destroy. And yet, she also knew that if she stayed silent, the consequences would be far worse. The night stretched on quietly, but tension lingered in every word, in every glance. Lena's heart pounded with anticipation and fear, knowing that this night would mark the beginning of something far larger than she could yet imagine. The choice she had made to come here had set events in motion, and there was no turning back. And somewhere deep inside, she felt a flicker of hope that telling the truth might finally change everything for the better. The groom stayed silent for a long moment, watching Lena closely. The night had grown darker around them, the soft glow of garden lights casting long shadows that danced gently on the ground. He could hear the faint music from inside, laughter and chatter that seemed far away now, like it belonged to a different world. His mind was a storm of thoughts. Every word Lena had said weighed on him, and yet, part of him could not ignore the sincerity in her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" he asked finally. His voice was low, almost tired. Why risk coming here, being humiliated in front of everyone, just to… What? Warn me? Lena took a deep breath, her fingers clutching the strap of her bag a little tighter. "Because if I didn't come, you wouldn't see it until it was too late. And I couldn't live with myself knowing that," she said, her voice trembling but determined. "I had to try. Even if it meant getting slapped. Even if it meant people thinking I was crazy." He shook his head slowly. "People already think you're crazy. And I can't stop thinking about what Vera saw. What everyone saw? You could have ruined my life tonight before it even began." "I didn't want to ruin anything," Lena said softly. "I only wanted to stop something worse. I only wanted you to know the truth. Everything else, I can handle." He looked at her closely, seeing the exhaustion in her eyes, the faint dark circles under them, the way her hands refused to stay still. She looked fragile, but there was a strength in her too. A quiet strength that didn't belong to someone who just walked into a wedding hall and caused chaos. "Okay," said finally, sitting back on the bench. "I'm listening. But you need to be honest. I need to understand everything. No hiding, no sugarcoating. Just the truth. Whatever it is." Lena nodded. She could feel her heartbeat quicken. The next words would decide everything. They would either open a door or close it forever. She had rehearsed this moment for months in her mind, but now that it was here, she realized rehearsed words were never enough. The truth had to be felt, not just said. "Vera," she began slowly, "is not just a woman who wants to marry you. She's someone who hides things. Important things. She's been planning her life in a way that puts her first and everyone else second. She's charming, and everyone loves her, but I've seen what she does when no one is looking." The groom frowned. "What do you mean? Are you saying she's dangerous?" "In a way," Lena said carefully. "Not physically, but she can ruin lives without people noticing. She manipulates situations. She lies, sometimes about small things, sometimes about things that matter more than anyone realizes. And she's hiding something about herself that could change everything between you two." He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "What is it?" "You need to tell me." "I can't tell you all of it right now," Lena admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not everything. But I can tell you this. She's not the person she pretends to be. She presents one face to the world, but the person behind that mask, she's calculating. She's clever. And if you go forward without knowing, you'll regret it." He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "This is a lot to take in. You just showed up at my wedding, and now you're telling me my fiancée isn't who I think she is? And I'm supposed to trust you. Why?" Lena looked at him, her eyes pleading. "Because I care. Because I want the truth to matter more than appearances. Because I can't let you be hurt by someone you think you love, but who doesn't care about you the way you deserve. He sat back, silent again. His mind raced. Memories of the past months flashed before him: the wedding planning, Vera's sweet smiles, the promises, the laughter. Could all of it have been false? Could someone so charming, so perfect in public, really be hiding a dangerous side? Why now? He asked finally. Why come here tonight? Why not wait? Talk to me in private another time. Because tonight is the night everything changes, Lena said. If I waited, it might be too late. By tomorrow, everything could be locked in. You'd be married, and there'd be no way to undo it without causing a bigger mess. I came here because I had no other choice. He looked at her, trying to measure the truth in her words. There was fear, yes, and embarrassment. But there was also honesty. It was written all over her face. Every careful movement, every quiet breath, it all screamed truth. You're brave, he said finally. Or maybe reckless. I can't tell which. Maybe a little of both, Lena admitted with a small, sad smile. But I'm willing to be both, if it means you don't get hurt. For a while, silence settled again, heavy and pressing. The night seemed to hold its breath along with them. The groom could hear the faint rustle of leaves, the distant hum of music, the occasional laughter of guests who had no idea what had happened outside. Everything felt suspended, as if the world had paused to give him a moment to think. I need to know more, said finally, voice low but steady. I can't act on just fear. I can't make a decision based on suspicion alone. Show me proof. Tell me everything you know. Then I'll decide. Lena nodded, relief washing over her. He was listening. He wasn't dismissing her. He was giving her a chance. I can, she said softly. But it's not easy. What I'm going to tell you, it will shock you. It will make you question everything. And after that, you might not even want to hear me. I will, he said firmly. I need to hear it, no matter how hard it is. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. Vera, she comes from a life that's carefully constructed. Everything she owns, everything she shows the world. It's built to impress, to hide what she's really like. And she has secrets about her family, about her past, that she doesn't want anyone to know. If you marry her without knowing, you could be stepping into a life filled with lies, manipulation, and control. Things she's willing to do to protect her image. I've seen it. I've seen what she's capable of when she's cornered. He felt a chill. The words sounded unbelievable, almost like a story someone might tell to scare another person. But there was something in her voice, in the way she looked at him, that made him pause. He could not simply dismiss her as crazy. Why are you telling me this? He asked again. Why not someone else? Why risk everything yourself? Because I care, Lena said simply. And because I can't stay silent. If I didn't say anything, I would always regret it. And I couldn't live with myself knowing you were trapped in a marriage that might destroy you. He looked at her, his chest tight. His mind swirled with confusion and doubt, fear and suspicion, but also a strange sense of hope. For the first time that night, he felt like someone truly saw him. Someone who wasn't blinded by appearances or social rules. All right, he said finally. I want to know everything. Every detail you can give me. Then I'll decide what to do. But you have to promise. No more half-truths. I need it all. I promise, Lena said, her voice firm. She could feel the weight of the night pressing down on her shoulders, but also a strange sense of purpose. This was her chance. The chance to prevent something terrible, the chance to reveal the truth and finally be heard. They sat together under the soft glow of the garden lights, speaking quietly, their words carrying the weight of secrets, fear, and hope. Every detail Lena revealed painted a picture of a world the groom had never known. He listened, sometimes skeptical, sometimes shocked, but always attentive. Inside the hall, the party continued, but the energy had shifted. Guests whispered about the strange interaction they had witnessed, wondering who Lena was and what she could possibly want. Vera paced nervously near the entrance, her pride wounded, her plans disrupted. She could sense that something had changed. Something was no longer under her control. Outside, Lena and the groom spoke until the night felt almost still. By the time they paused to catch their breath, the world felt different. The groom's mind was racing with questions, doubts, and a growing sense of unease. He knew that the choices he made tonight would change everything. And Lena. She knew that she had done the hardest part. She had spoken the truth, revealed the risk, and now the rest was out of her hands. But for the first time in her life, she felt a small flicker of hope that perhaps, just perhaps, telling the truth could save someone from a life of regret. The night stretched on, quiet and tense, the future uncertain, but one thing was clear. Nothing would ever be the same again. The night had deepened. The soft glow from the garden lights now felt like the only warmth in a cold, uncertain world. The groom and Lena sat quietly on the bench. Their conversation paused, each lost in thought. The words Lena had shared earlier still hung heavily in the air. He had listened, sometimes in disbelief, sometimes in silence. But now he understood one thing. Clearly tonight was no ordinary night. Something important, something life-changing was about to unfold. Why now? He asked suddenly, breaking the quiet. Why reveal this to me tonight? Not just the secrets about her, but everything else. Why reveal yourself now? Lena took a deep breath. Her hands tightened around her bag strap. Because you deserve the truth, she said softly. And because it's not just about her, it's about you, about me, about everything that connects us. Frowned. What do you mean everything that connects us? Who are you really? She hesitated. For a moment, she looked away, trying to steady herself. The night air felt colder, sharper, as if it sensed the truth she was about to reveal. I've kept this hidden for years, she said finally. Not because I wanted to, but because I had no choice. The people around us, they would never let this be known. But now, I can't hide anymore. You need to know who I am. He leaned closer, his eyes narrowing with curiosity and confusion. You're scaring me. Just tell me. Who are you? Lena's voice dropped to a whisper, almost lost in the rustle of the trees. I'm your daughter. The words hung in the air. The groom stared at her, disbelief flooding his face. For a long moment, he thought he hadn't heard correctly. What? He asked, his voice trembling slightly. That's impossible. I don't have a daughter. I've never... I know, Lena said quickly, her eyes pleading. You didn't know? And that's the point. I was kept away from you. Circumstances, decisions by people who wanted to control both our lives, they separated us. I grew up believing I would never see you, and you grew up unaware that you had a daughter somewhere in the world. He sat back, his mind racing. His heart thumped painfully in his chest, a mix of confusion, disbelief, something deeper, something he had not felt in years. This can't be real, he whispered. How? How is that even possible? Lena swallowed hard. It's real. I have proof, documents, letters, things that show who I am. And more than that, my face, my eyes, my mannerisms, they are pieces of you. People tried to hide it, but the truth doesn't stay hidden forever. Tonight I had to come to you, because if I didn't, you would have married someone who doesn't know, doesn't care, and doesn't have your life in her heart the way I do. He ran his hands over his face, shaking his head. I don't understand. Why would anyone hide this from me? Who would do something like that? Lena's lips pressed into a thin line. There are people who wanted to protect their plans, their power, their image. They thought separating us would keep us safe, but it didn't. It only delayed the truth. And now it's here. The groom sat back, stunned. He looked at Lena, trying to take in everything she was saying. His mind reeled. Questions ran like wildfire questions about her birth, about the years he had spent unaware, about the life she had lived without him. All this time, you were out there, and I had no idea. Yes, Lena said softly. All this time, I watched from a distance sometimes, hoping for a chance. I never imagined it would come like this through a wedding confrontation, but it did, and I had to use it. You had to know before it was too late. Shook his head, trying to process. And Vera. She has no idea. Exactly, Lena said. She doesn't know me. Doesn't know my connection to you. She thought I was just someone random, someone who might cause trouble. But I'm not random. And she never suspected that her actions tonight, what she did to me, would reveal everything. The groom's mind flashed back to the wedding hall, the way Vera had raised her hand. The anger, the humiliation Lena had endured. Now, it all made a different kind of sense. Not the actions themselves, but the reactions, the pride, the false sense of control. He felt a surge of anger at the thought of Vera's deception and manipulation. You're telling me, he said slowly, voice low, that the girl she slapped is my daughter? Lena nodded. Yes, I know it's a lot. I know it's unbelievable. But it's true, and it's the reason I came. I couldn't let Herrera lead you into a life built on lies. Not when you have someone connected to you by blood, someone who cares more than she ever could. The groom leaned back, closing his eyes, his chest tight. He felt a wave of emotion he hadn't felt in years. Shock, anger, disbelief, sorrow, and a strange, fragile hope. Why? Why didn't you come sooner? He asked, his voice barely audible. Because I had to wait, Lena said, her voice soft. I had to make sure it was safe, that it was the right moment. And tonight, when I saw you, when I saw her, I knew there was no other time. I had to come now, even if it meant risking everything. He opened his eyes and looked at her, really looked, seeing the truth in her expression. It wasn't just words. It was courage, honesty, and a kind of love that had been missing from both their lives for far too long. This is overwhelming, he admitted. I don't even know where to start. Everything I thought I knew. It's been turned upside down. I know, Lena said quietly. And I don't expect you to understand everything right away. I just needed you to hear me, to know that I exist, and that I'm here. And more than that, that your life can be different. That it can have truth, honesty, and someone who genuinely cares about you. He nodded slowly, taking a deep breath. The night air seemed heavier now, but somehow it carried a promise of change. He felt the weight of the years he had spent unaware, and the weight of the decisions he had yet to make. And sitting there looking at Lena, he realized that life had offered him a chance to correct the course, to embrace something real after so many illusions. Show me, he said finally, his voice firmer. Show me who you are. Show me everything I need to know. Documents, letters, memories, anything that proves what you've told me. I need to see it for myself. Lena reached into her bag and pulled out a small stack of papers, letters, and photos. Here, she said softly, everything. Take your time. Look at it all. I'll wait. He took the papers with trembling hands. His eyes scanned each document, each photo, each letter, and the reality began to sink in. Dates matched, names matched, faces matched, everything confirmed what she had said. His heart pounded with a mixture of disbelief and awe. He looked up at her, unable to speak for a moment. Then finally he whispered, It's true. You really are my daughter, yes, Lena said quietly. I am, and tonight I had to be. Because if I hadn't, you might have gone forward unaware, and your life could have been trapped in a lie. Now, you know, and you can decide what to do next. He sat back, overwhelmed by the revelation. He felt a mix of guilt for the years lost, anger for the deception that kept them apart, and a strange, tender joy at finally seeing the daughter he never knew existed. I don't know what to say, he admitted. Then don't say anything, Lena said softly. Just feel it. Let it sink in. This is the beginning, not the end. And whatever happens next, we'll face it together. For a long time, they sat in silence, the night carrying a sense of profound change. Inside the wedding hall, celebrations continued, unaware that lives had been altered forever. But out here, in the quiet garden, truth had been revealed that no one could ever undo. The groom reached out and gently took Lena's hand. It was tentative, careful, but it carried everything words could not express: acceptance, wonder, and the first real connection he had felt in years. The morning sun had not yet broken through the clouds. But the first hints of light touched the city, casting long shadows on streets that were still quiet. Inside the wedding hall, chaos and whispers had replaced the carefully planned celebration from the night before. The news of Lena's revelation had spread like wildfire. Guests, staff, and even distant relatives were buzzing with disbelief, murmuring in corners and speculating about what had happened. Some looked shocked, others angry, and a few were clearly fascinated. Vera, the bride, was at the center of it all. She had tried to maintain a composed face when the whispers began, but inside she was unraveling. Her perfectly styled hair seemed to droop under the weight of humiliation, and her carefully applied makeup couldn't hide the panic rising in her chest. The realization that her secret had been uncovered, that the woman she had dismissed and humiliated was in fact the groom's daughter, struck her like a lightning bolt. How could this happen? She whispered to one of her friends, her voice trembling. I thought I had everything under control." Her friend hesitated, unsure how to respond. I don't know, but you should probably see him. He knows now, and everyone else. Well, they're talking. Vera's mind raced. She had built her image, her plans, and her life around control. Now in one night, everything had slipped away. Her carefully constructed world was crumbling, and the person she had underestimated, the quiet, modest young woman she had slapped, was standing at the center of it all, holding the power she'd never imagined she could have. Meanwhile, outside the hall, Lena and her father, the groom, stood side by side in the cool morning air. The revelation of their connection had changed everything. Neither spoke at first. Words felt unnecessary. The bond between them, newly discovered but undeniable, carried a weight far greater than any conversation could. For years they had been strangers to each other, but now, in this quiet moment, they were family. "I still can't believe it," the groom said quietly, shaking his head. "All these years, and now it's you, my daughter." Lena smiled faintly, a mix of relief and sadness in her expression. "I know, and I don't expect it to be easy. But at least now, it's the truth. That's what matters." He looked at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of awe, regret, and newfound hope. "You've given me something I never thought I'd have. A chance to make things right. I can't waste it." Inside, Vera had finally found the groom. She approached him cautiously, trying to mask her panic with a smile. "Please," she said softly, "can we talk?" He looked at her calmly, the weight of the night and the morning pressing on his shoulders. "There's nothing to talk about," he said firmly. "Everything has been revealed. Your actions, your secrets, everything. I can't trust you anymore. Not after tonight." Vera's face paled. "But the wedding is over," he interrupted. "Not because of anyone's opinion, but because I finally know the truth. And I won't step into a life built on lies, no matter how perfect it looks from the outside." Vera's panic turned to disbelief. "You can't just throw everything away," she shouted. "All my plans, all our families." "I can," he said quietly but firmly, "because I won't live a life where honesty is absent. And I won't let someone manipulate me, my life, or my family. That ends here." Guests nearby watched in stunned silence. Some whispered about the drama unfolding, while others began to quietly leave, unable to bear the tension. Vera's carefully crafted world had collapsed in one night. There was no hiding it now. Outside, Lena stepped forward. She hadn't needed to say much, but her presence alone made a statement. She had endured humiliation, she had risked everything, and now she stood tall, her dignity intact. The groom looked at her and nodded, silently expressing gratitude and recognition. Vera turned to face Lena, his eyes blazing with anger and disbelief. "You," she spat. "You think this gives you power? You walked in here, humiliated me, and now you stand like some hero?" Lena remained calm, her voice steady. "I didn't come to be a hero," she said softly. "I came to tell the truth. That's all. Everything else is up to him." Vera's mouth opened as if to argue, but no words came. The reality of the situation weighed heavily on her. For the first time, she felt powerless, stripped of control, and unable to manipulate anyone. She realized that the quiet, modest woman she had looked down on was far stronger than she had imagined. The groom took a step forward, placing a protective hand near Lena's shoulder. "It's over," he said, his voice carrying authority and finality. "You had your chance to be honest. You chose deception. That choice is yours. But my choice is to embrace the truth." Vera's shoulders slumped slightly, the fight draining from her. She realized that there was no winning now. No social status, no manipulation, no charm could undo the truth. The people she had counted on to support her were no longer relevant. The reality was undeniable. The groom turned to Lena, his expression softening. "You have been brave," he said. "More than you know. You risked everything to protect me, to tell the truth, and I can't thank you enough." Lena shook her head slightly. "I didn't do it for thanks," she said. "I did it because it was the right thing, because you deserve to know, because you're my father, and I couldn't stand by silently." He took her hands in his, holding them gently. "I can't believe we finally found each other," he said. "After all these years, it feels like a miracle." Lena smiled, tears welling up in her eyes. "It feels like one," she whispered. Together, they walked into the wedding hall. The remaining guests watched as the two of them entered side by side, a silent acknowledgement of the truth and the bond that could no longer be denied. Whispers followed them, but Lena and her father paid no attention. Their focus was on each other, on the new life they could build together. Vera, still standing near the entrance, watched silently. She could not speak, could not interfere. The power she had wielded so easily was gone, and for the first time she felt the consequences of her actions. She had underestimated the quiet strength of a woman she had humiliated, underestimated the power of truth, and underestimated the consequences of deceit. The groom and Lena approached the front of the hall, where the remnants of the wedding ceremony had been left unattended. He turned to face the guests, his voice calm but carrying weight. "This day was meant for celebration," he began, "but it has become a lesson about truth, honesty, and courage. Tonight and in the days to come, we will build something real. We will honor honesty, respect, and family, and nothing else matters." The guests listened in stunned silence, many reflecting on their own assumptions and judgments. Some nodded in agreement, while others whispered quietly, realizing the depth of what had occurred. Lena stood beside her father, feeling a sense of belonging she had never known before. The journey to this moment had been long, filled with fear, doubt, and risk, but it had led to truth, reconciliation, and a chance for a life that could be lived openly and honestly. For Vera, the lesson was harsh but clear. She had been confronted with the consequences of pride, manipulation, and deceit. Her world had collapsed, and there was no one to blame but herself. For the first time, she faced a life where her carefully constructed illusions could not protect her. Lena and her father moved through the hall, greeting a few guests who were willing to acknowledge the change. They did not need grand gestures or formal recognition. The truth itself had transformed the room. Later, outside the hall, Lena and her father stood together, looking at the city, waking up beneath the soft morning light. A sense of calm had returned, a quiet understanding that nothing would ever be the same again. The past could not be changed, but the future was theirs to shape. "I never imagined this would happen," the groom said quietly. "That after all these years, we would find each other like this." "Neither did I," Lena said, her voice gentle. "But I know that from now on, we can face anything together. The truth has given us a chance, and I won't let it go to waste." He smiled, a mixture of relief, gratitude, and love. "Then let's make the most of it, together." And as the sun finally broke over the horizon, casting golden light across the city, father and daughter stood side by side, ready to embrace a new beginning. The past, with all its secrets and pain, had led them to this moment of truth, courage, and hope. And in that light, the story of humiliation, revelation, and reunion found its resolution, not in revenge, Not in anger, but in the quiet power of honesty. Love. And Family.e have a lot to figure out, he said quietly, but I'm glad you came. Me too, Lena whispered, relief and hope mixing in her chest. Me too. And for the first time in years, both of them felt that something real, honest, and unbreakable had begun. The night, once heavy with tension, now carried a fragile light, the light of truth, of revelation, and the promise of a life finally shared.